men det räcker. Det räcker. Fan. So now I'm going to also test here in the back, and I'm going to make this fit. It didn't go exactly straight, but that's because I had to get it flat to that thing. So now I have to grind out a little bit that it can go all the way into here. So now it's flat around here, and now in the afternoon we're going to test it. The O-ring is on, so we will see if it's leak. Well, I'm not too sure, you know, it's going to be good, but just have to work. So here it's pouring out, but I don't see anyone else, in fact. And this one should be easy to fix. So you see, here it comes. Well, but on this end, it's catastrophic. So somewhere up here, there is something very, very wrong. I don't like to cut this piece, but that has to be done. So, well, little by little, it's gonna help. So, thank you. Anyway, I'm learning things. So, to clean up the water, I got a rag. Before, I had one of microfiber, polyester fiber, I think it is. But it took a long time to get them wet out, to get them started. But once they were wet, they were okay. But now I use a cotton one. And that starts immediately, just like a towel. So that had been a problem before, but now I learned that. Now it's going to be cotton rags to keep things dry. So a good thing is that. So here is the hole. I put the pipe cleaner in here. You can see. Now you have to wait until it gets dry. So I cannot do this today, but so far surprisingly good. But ropa inte hej förrän du är över bäcken. Don't be happy before everything is okay. So, before I told about how me and Jannike, after a very rough time, came to Marstrand, and so, but now the weather makes a difference. The next day it was ideal sailing breeze with nice warm sunshine. We continued happily among the many islands which gave complete protection from sea swell and offered a large number of natural harbors, and all went very well. One day we were at the coastal islands, ready for a 30-mile crossing to Norway. The same nice breeze was giving us a pleasant beam wind. After a while, the so ever vivacious Jannike became quiet. A bit later, she started to look pale. Then, all of a sudden, she began to vomit violently. I was surprised. True, There was a sea swell, but the weather was fine. She was kind of knocked out. The only thing she could do was lie in the bunk and move. Except for Jannicke's seasickness, the crossing was uneventful. And after a few hours, she was her all safe again, gay as ever. However, I was brooding. I knew that the passage north of Scotland, west of Ireland, down to Madeira would be a rough one. I know that the chances of running into extended periods of southwesterly gales were great. I know that the Hebrides and the Irish west coast would be to leeward, and that I would have to fight my way to windward for weeks after weeks in order not to be smashed to pieces by heavy breakers against them. I know that once committed, there was no turning back and no way of sending out a call for help. I did not think she could. If she had been that seasick in today's sea swell, I shuddered to think of what those gales might do to her. I tried to explain, and I told her as gently as possible that she had to leave. I followed her to the bus station and told her that I would write when I came to Madeira. Without Jannicke, the boat felt unfriendly and cold. I felt lonely and wondered if I had made the right decision. But Jannicke was gone, and I had to fight on like a man. I continued to the southwesternmost point of Norway. From there, I set my course for the Shetland Islands. Wanting to leave the coastal traffic and fishing boats behind me as soon as possible, I took advantage of an easterly gale. After tacking out of the long, narrow entrance to the fjord where I spent the night, banging into the seas, I could soon turn round the headline, lay my course and ease the sheets. I wanted plenty of speed, so I carried a lot of sails. My biggest sheave was boomed out and breeze surfed down the waves. Sometimes she heeled over a bit too much and the jib touched the water. But as I had built a strong boat, I carried on. Suddenly the jib dug deeper into the water. There was a bang and the jib boom exploded into 3 pieces. The middle quickly floated away, the 2 other pieces hanging on to their fittings. This, only a few hours after leaving the mainland, was not a good start. But I carried on, not yet knowing her well and able to balance her. I hove to a bit after darkness. This my first night out. Too tired to continue, I had no self-steering. Next day brought good weather. In fact, I was in a high pressure area with light winds. Breeze has always been able to move quickly in such conditions. Now, with the sea calmer and the boat not so overburdened, I was able to get her to steer herself by jamming my heavy walking shoes upside down under the steering wheel. After not too many days of good weather, I could see Fair Isle, a little island between Orkney and Shetland Islands. Encouraged by having crossing the North Sea so quickly and having made such an excellent landfall and eager to continue. I felt I had already won half the battle, and it would not take long to reach Madeira. Looking at the map, it seemed to be all downhill from now on. There were still some of the fresh groceries left, so full of confidence, I went straight out into the Atlantic without stopping anywhere to fill up with food. The sky was becoming a bit grey, and as dusk fell and Fair Isle lighthouse was sinking into the water, I entered the Atlantic, leaving the North Sea behind. It was June 21st, the longest day of the year. The big swell I met gave me a forewarning of things to come. The next day it was drizzling and the wind was against me and getting stronger. Not wanting to have the Hebrides and their fishing fleets too close, I chose a west-northwest course to get more sea room. The wind increased to gale force and I changed down to storm sails. Now followed 3 weeks of nearly continuous gales, which took me up to 62 degrees north, near Iceland. It turned bitter cold, but I just had to keep fighting the weather. I carried as much sails as and the boat could stand. Waves were banging into the boat with mighty force. One of them was catapulting the boat to lee, knocking her down about 80 degrees, throwing mugs, saucepans and other things from one side of the boat to the other. As I opened my hatch to see if the mast was still there, I noticed that the log line was on the windward side, coming up from under between the fin keel and the rudder. Breeze must have been through at least 10 feet backwards and sideways over the log line. Another time, on a dark night, I was on deck to reef the already small trysail, standing close to the mast, with the boat going downwind to get a drier deck. No one at the helm, of course. I was facing aft when I saw and heard the breaker of a big sea coming fast towards me. There was no time to run back to the tiller, so I did the only thing possible. I sat down on deck, knotted my legs and arm around the mast, held on for dear life, and hoped for the best. The breaker caught up with the boat, and breeze, riding the breaker, started surfing down the face of a very steep wave. The speed and noise were tremendous. Each moment there was a danger of bruising too. Luck was with me, and I arrived at the bottom of the wave in one piece, still holding on to the mast. Hundreds of feet of white foam behind me. I completed the reef, turned the boat to windward again, and went below to my bunk. Pain in my back made me realize how hard I had held on into the mast. There were times when the rough conditions tempted me to take the easy way and turn around and run with the wind to stop the endless brutal banging into the waves caused by the necessary hard driving. But the easy way out seldom leads to success, and I already had one failed start behind me. I had also problems with food. Conveniently, a supermarket in Göteborg caught fire a few days before my departure, and the company sold everything that had been close to the fire for half the price. I bought 40 cans of Swedish meatballs, but after 3 weeks of severe gale conditions and meatballs every day, I began to have second thoughts about my favorite food. Unbelievable to me at first, but finally, after having been driven up to 62 degrees north in Iceland, the gales started to have a northerly component in them, and I could ease the sheets, pick up speed, and enjoy the absence of banging. I was now also much better at balancing the boat, so that she could steer herself on almost any course. Also that contributed to the speed. As I came south, sweater after sweater came off, but it was not before I reached the latitude of northern Spain that I went on deck and had a proper wash. Some more miles had to be run before eventually the high island of Madeira was sighted one morning. Darkness fell before I could make function, but as I knew the easy harbor well, I entered in and dropped the 2 required anchors at the same spot I had occupied 4 years earlier in the converted steamboat. I noted that the time was 4 o'clock in the morning. The passage had taken 45 days. I was slim and fit, and the boat had stood well up to the gales. Though very tired, I was too excited to sleep long. I was early up, cleared custom, changed my money, and quickly made for the market with all its beautiful tropical fruits. The reader needs no great imagination to realize how lovely they tasted after weeks of fire-damaged Swedish meatballs. To be continued.